left out.
I have one more too, but we got Fedor, so just tell me real quick.
Emoni Bates.
Who's he?
Is Johnny Football.
No. G. Bush, you ready? Emoni Bates is C.J. Stroud. A great rookie season. Blow up in his second year.
Yes, sir.
That's for you, G.
Let's go.
We're
Let's go.
We're gonna
yes,
bring Chris
sir.
Fedor
What
in after a
alternative
word
universe
here
do
from
you call
FanDuel.
home?
It's winner take all time in the NBA
he
and
did
NHL.
finish like second for
And
the
FanDuel's giving you a
Summer
shot
League
to bring
MVP.
home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And joining us now is Chris Fedor, the Cavs beat writer from Cleveland.com, who is in the know with all things Cavs. How you doing today, Chris?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Before we even start, we got to get to Emoni Bates. Is he over? Is he Summer League MVP?
That's
You already knew.
for you.
You already knew, Chris. You knew what you was walking into. Summer League MVP this year.
What a high bar.
Yeah, right.
Whew.
Is he going to play any significant
Bush.
minutes next year, Chris?
G. Bush, I think you surpassed the Emoni Bates tweet quota in October.
Well, that quota should be one.
You kept it going all the way through May.
Yeah, we're ready to go, bro. Like, yeah, we ready. Listen, him and the other Mobley.
Chris, G. Bush is going to die on that hill, and he might actually die on that hill.
He loves it.
I mean, he is running out of food. He is freezing cold on that hill.
And he's the only one left on the hill.
No, Earl's on the hill too.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't know if
he's on that hill.
Is he still as entrenched?
I think he is.
Earl's halfway on the hill. He was going to bring me a
Earl
sandwich.
just said he's all the way on the hill.
All right, let's
He's
go.
fully on the
Let's
hill.
go.
No, seriously, Chris, is there any chance he plays legitimate minutes next year?
I find that hard to believe. This is a team that went to the Eastern Conference semifinals. I think a lot of things depend on what happens in this offseason, who comes back, who doesn't come back. But we're talking about a guy who he's on a two-way contract for a reason. He's young. He's still trying to learn how to be a pro. He didn't really tear up the G League when he was down there. He's got a lot of things that he needs to learn in terms of how to fit on a roster. We're talking about like the 14th, 15th guy on a roster, on an Eastern Conference semifinals roster. Having him get consistent minutes at this stage of his career, at this stage of his development, is just not in the cards.
Chris, Jason has said a couple of times in the last couple of weeks that the Cavs made a mistake, obviously a number of years ago, by hiring David Blatt before LeBron came back, and David Blatt wasn't a fit once LeBron was here. And so he thinks the Cavs are going to wait till Donovan Mitchell makes his decision to hire a coach, especially when it seems like, I guess the Lakers haven't officially hired their coach yet, but that's it. Do you agree with him? Do you think they're going to wait until Donovan makes his decision in early July?
I don't know if it's going to be that long, guys, to be honest with you, but I do think that this organization is not in any rush to find a new head coach. At least that's the sense that I get, is that they're not going to rush this process. As you mentioned, Bull, there's only one other team that's looking for a coach. It's the Lakers, and it doesn't mean that they're still couldn't be some other kind of surprise move that happens. It's the NBA. Anything is possible, but it's not a lot of competition out there for the same guys, and there are some guys that would probably be more attracted to Los Angeles than Cleveland, if we're being perfectly honest with you, including that situation in Los Angeles as opposed to Cleveland. So I would expect that the Cavs interview close to double-digit guys throughout this process. I think it's going to be an extensive process, but just because they're going to interview a bunch of people, at least that's the sense I get, it doesn't mean that all of those guys are realistic candidates to actually get the job. The other thing, like when Jason mentions that, I think it's logical. I think it makes a lot of sense. The only difference is, like, there were drastic changes that were potentially made when you talk about that previous coaching search in terms of the kind of roster setup and in terms of the kind of team that guy was going to be coaching.
That's fair.
Like one with LeBron James, one without LeBron James, that's significantly different. Even if Donovan decides that he's not going to sign the long-term extension, the Cavs aren't going into full rebuild mode here. They're still going to try and compete. They're still going to have other talented players on this roster. So I just don't know that the kind of coach that they're looking for during this search is all that different, no matter what happens when it comes to Donovan.
Chris, do you think there's a fit amongst these candidates and the names that are floating around? Who, in your mind, is the perfect fit for this roster at this time?
The guy that stands out to me is Kenny Atkinson, guys. Obviously, he was the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He learned from Mike D'Antoni. He learned from Ty Lue. He learned from Steve Kerr. That's a really impressive resume to begin with, and he has head coaching experience. In some ways, I feel like he's opposite JB Bickerstaff. There's so many good things that JB did while he was here in terms of early on in the rebuild and getting the Cavs to this place where they're at. You know, what the Cavs needed from JB is what he was strong at. But his weaknesses became pretty apparent as his tenure went on here, right? Like, he wasn't the greatest tactician. He wasn't great when it came to in-game adjustments. He didn't value analytics the same kind of way as maybe some of these other new school coaches would. He was really, really adamant about playing a certain style of defense. And I just think when you're talking about Kenny Atkinson, he's known for X's and O's. He's known for running quality stuff offensively. He's known for player development, which could be really, really important if Darius Garland remains here. Evan Mobley, same thing. And he's really, really into analytics. So he's more of like an offensive-minded type guy, which is where it felt like JB came up short during his time. You know, last offseason, the Cavs basically gave JB Bickerstaff a decree, and they said, you have to make this offense more diverse, more dynamic. That's what we need from you. You have to get the most out of Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. You have to find a way to make this offense something different than what we saw in the series against the New York Knicks. And there were times where the Cavs had that kind of offense, but in the playoffs, it looked a lot like it did last year against the Knicks. So I think the Cavs are going to be looking for somebody who can bring a little bit more diversity, some new ideas on the offensive end of the floor, and see if they can take this offense to a place that JB couldn't take it.
You know, Chris, I've been hearing rumors. We be hearing a lot of stuff out here. What don't you like about the Darius Garland and Brandon Ingram proposed trade rumors? What about that trade do you like, and what don't you like about it if it was to go down?
I think it's a logical trade for the Cavs. I think from their standpoint, it is an upgrade. I don't know how significant of an upgrade that is. I don't know how much Brandon Ingram really changes the equation for the Cavs. Does that all of a sudden rejiggering the roster that kind of way and putting Brandon Ingram there as Donovan's running mate instead of Darius, does that put them on the same level as Boston? Does anybody think that? No. Does that put them on the same level as Philadelphia? Philadelphia goes out this offseason and makes some kind of move to bring in somebody else alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey? I don't know that it does. So to me, that's kind of like moving the deck chairs around, and it's a better fitting duo, I think, because I don't think there are stylistic complications between Donovan and Brandon Ingram, the same ones that exist between Darius and Donovan at this particular moment. But to me, he's not a needle mover that all of a sudden makes the Cavs, one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference. He's coming off a not so great year. The ball kind of sticks when it's in his hands. He's ISO heavy. He doesn't really shoot from 3-point range with a whole lot of volume. I think the Cavs could probably do better than Brandon Ingram, if we're being honest.
Okay, well, tell us who then. Who's the realistic better option, Chris?
I think they should target Paul George. I don't know what his future is going to be for the Clippers. That is a guy who could potentially be on the move this offseason in some kind of way. Either it's a trade, either it's a sign and trade, or it's in free agency. But Paul George is a needle mover in a different kind of way. He's had playoff success throughout the course of his career. I don't know what Los Angeles is going to do with him and Kawhi, but there is a lot of speculation around the NBA right now that Paul George is going to find his way east as opposed to staying in the Western Conference. Wow. The other one, and it would not happen. It absolutely would not happen because the two owners won't even say each other's name.
Yeah.
But Kevin Durant is the other obvious name if Phoenix is going to make some changes with their roster. Who knows what they're going to do? Anything could happen throughout the course of an offseason. But Kevin Durant is a name that continues to float out there. Paul George is a name. Brandon Ingram. Devin Vassell of the San Antonio Spurs is another name to watch. Keldon Johnson of the San Antonio Spurs. And Mikal Bridges, I think, would be a really, really good fit, too, if Brooklyn would be willing to move on from him. All those names, I think, have a little bit more appeal to me, anyway, than Brandon Ingram.
What about Jimmy Butler, Chris? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another one, but I don't know ultimately what's going to happen with him in Miami. I don't know where his head is at, and he is the kind of player that, guys, he looks for a certain kind of situation, and I'm not sure that Cleveland is that kind of situation for Jimmy.
Chris, obviously in his end-of-season press conference, Koby Altman said, hey, we're not breaking it up. That's just him. What are you going to say? He's not going to say, oh, we're going to make trades, right? I mean, so right. You think behind the scenes he's not comfortable just leaving it as is?
I think he's more open to the idea of breaking up the core four than he has been in the past, because I think there's enough data pointing to some complications between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And look, it's tough when it comes to that pairing specifically, because Darius was so bad this year at various points, and there were reasons for it, but he didn't have a great year. So if Darius wasn't going to have a great year, the Darius Donovan thing wasn't going to look very good together. But I think there's enough data that points to some stylistic complications with those two guys, and I think there's enough data that points to complications stylistically between Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. But this is all predicated on a couple of things. It's what does Donovan want? Is Donovan going to stay long term? And what kind of packages would the Cavs get back in return? Because they didn't have the kind of season, guys, where they have to make a move just to make a move. And they didn't have the kind of season where they have to overreact or start panicking. They were one of 8 teams that made the conference semifinals. Pretty good place to be. Obviously, they have flaws. And obviously, they're not on the same level as Boston. That showed itself in that series. But you don't just have to start taking back stuff that's not going to advance you forward just because you're getting an itchy trigger finger, just because you feel like you have to make a move. I don't think they're in that kind of situation. So part of this is predicated on what's the package look like for Jarrett Allen, right? What's the return look like for Darius Garland? If it's something that makes sense, if it's something that can make us better, then sure, I think the Cavs absolutely would consider that, guys. But I don't think that they're just going to take scraps back for Jarrett or Darius just because.
Well, who has the highest? Who around the league? Who do you think has the highest value? Darius Garland or Jarrett Allen?
I think it's Jarrett. I think for a couple of reasons. I think positionally there are enough teams out there that are looking for an upgrade at that particular spot. New Orleans has been after Jarrett Allen for the last couple of years. They've expressed interest in him a number of different times. Brooklyn is a team that could potentially take a look at somebody like Jarrett Allen. Keep an eye on the Golden State Warriors. They've got Andrew Wiggins, but that is a framework type deal, I think, that Golden State would consider involving Jarrett Allen in that one, because they've needed a center for the last couple of years, and I don't think they want to play Draymond at full-time 5-man. So those are the kinds of teams that stand out to me. And for Jarrett, he has a team-friendly, favorable contract. He impacts winning at a high level. He is one of the best players in the NBA at his position. He's coming off a very, very good year offensively and defensively. He's gotten better offensively here in Cleveland. He added a little mid-range game. He's better when it comes to passing the ball. He's better out of the face-up. All of those different things he showed this year in different stretches. So that tells another team out there that there's still more to pull out of him. There's still more evolving that he can do. He's low maintenance. You don't have to worry about him saying the wrong thing or ruffling feathers behind the scenes or having any kind of ego or anything along those lines. So I just think his style, his contract, his age, the position that he plays, he can switch out on the perimeter while also defending inside. In today's NBA, he's the kind of guy that I think would have more value than somebody like Darius. Darius is coming off a terrible year, and he's got a bloated contract. Those are two things that could make other teams around the NBA shy away a little bit.
Yeah, that price tag is steep. Chris, I think the most important question comes last. I can't believe we've waited this long to get to it, but you alluded to it a little bit. But
Emoni Bates?
Absolutely. No, the second domino in their off-season plans here is Donovan Mitchell. Bring out your Mitchell meter. 100 he stays, 0 he goes. Where is your dial right now?
I would say probably about 75% that he stays. And it's hard to just like put a number out there. But Donovan is somebody who has said repeatedly to anybody that's willing to listen, one, that he's happy here in Cleveland, and 2, he believes in the direction of this organization. And I don't think that's entirely hollow. Spending enough time around Donovan the way that I have in the last 2 years, I don't know the where when it comes to this situation. I don't even know if Donovan knows the where at this point in time, right? Because there are a number of things that still have to play themselves out, both here in Cleveland and around the NBA. But I believe that I know the what. And I believe when it comes to Donovan, it's about chasing championships. He is somebody who wants to be looked at the same way that Jason Tatum is looked at. He wants to be looked at as the same way Anthony Edwards is being looked at right now. Donovan believes that there is a pathway to him potentially becoming the face of the NBA one day. When LeBron is gone, when Steph is gone, when KD is gone, that is a goal that Donovan has. The only way that he can become the face of the NBA or be in that conversation is with team playoff success. It eats at him, guys, that he has never been out of the second round in his career.
Oh, I'm sure
so
it does.
He is going to be looking for a basketball situation that gives him an opportunity to compete for championships. He wants to get to the conference finals. He wants to get to the NBA finals. And there aren't a ton of situations out there that say to Donovan, hey, this is a clear-cut, better basketball situation that you could realistically get to other than Cleveland. And the other thing is this, guys. If Donovan decides that he doesn't want to sign the extension, and he hypothetically lets the Cavs know that he doesn't want to sign the extension, that means that the Cavs would go down the road of trying to trade him. Once that happens, it's kind of out of Donovan's hands. He doesn't get to pick where he goes in a trade.
Yeah.
If the Cavs wanted to, and they got the best package back from San Antonio or something like that, you could send him to San Antonio. Damian Lillard said he wasn't going to play anywhere other than Miami, and he ended up in Milwaukee. Right? Donovan doesn't have a no-trade clause. So the Cavs, if they were to go down that path because they get an indication from Donovan that he isn't going to sign long-term, they can trade him anywhere they want that's going to give them the best package back in return, and that kind of takes the power out of Donovan's hands in a way. Right now, here in Cleveland, he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of influence. If he decides that he's not going to sign long-term, he loses some of that. So I don't think there's a clear-cut, better basketball situation out there for Donovan. I think there's enough upside to this situation here in Cleveland. Donovan is a smart basketball mind. He understands that, 1, the Cavs had success the last 2 years. 2, he had success individually the last 2 years. And 3, there is a possibility, if the Cavs want to go the direction, they have trade assets that could make this roster a little bit better and look a little bit more appealing to Donovan. I mean, is he going to be happy going to Brooklyn? Like, no, they're just, no. I don't know. There are more signs to me pointing to staying in Cleveland as the best thing for Donovan than leaving.